Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.
Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today, I've got the good fortune to be joined by Ryder, Haske, and Nicholas Bruckman from People's Television. Ryder, Nick, thanks so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Thank you, Seth.
Awesome. Let's go back in time a little bit. How did People's Television get started?
Yeah, I began the company all the way back in 2010, and Ryder joined me as my partner shortly thereafter. So we've been around for over a decade now, and our passion really comes from telling stories that change the world. I am a documentary filmmaker, had a lot of success in the independent documentary film world, having films at festivals and acquired by broadcasters and streamers. And despite that, realized the independent film world is not lucrative enough to make it my sole passion, but B, beyond money, I really felt like there was an opportunity to translate that type of independent cinematic storytelling that was winning awards at film festivals and hopefully making a small difference in the world to the brands and nonprofits and social causes that were increasingly using video in their marketing, especially in the 2010s. And throughout that time period, Ryder and I grew the business one person at a time, one client at a time, finding organizations that had powerful stories to tell and capturing those on film.
Who is an ideal client for you now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it really spans the gamut between nonprofits and brands and also the government, but really anyone who's got a powerful story to tell. And so that sounds very broad, but often what we like to focus on is stories that are character driven. So for instance, if a nonprofit has a particular group of people or a particular person that they've impacted, we would tell the story of that person and get deep into their lives. Maybe it was a client that they helped, or maybe it was a cause that they pushed forward. And so being able to tell that story and the humans behind it, that's a really kind of key niche for us, is putting faces on large issues and humanizing them, and then packaging those into really impactful short form videos.
Awesome. So how do we know if we've got a powerful story to tell? We might think it's powerful. No one else might. I mean, it's your job, I guess, to make people care. What if, I would imagine there are lots of people who probably have stories to tell, but don't give themselves enough credit, right? They don't know that it could be told in a powerful way. How do you deal with that? How do you identify that? How do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, for a lot of our partners, whether they be Fortune 500 companies or small nonprofits or social movements, I would say there's almost always stakeholders in their ecosystem whose lives are being changed by the work. And that could be an environmental cause. It could be a small business that's using Dropbox or some technology platform. We find that there's always some human drama within the context of the work that our partners are doing. And we try to help them find that using our skills as filmmakers, as documentary makers. Sometimes this can start as simple as a spreadsheet. Tell us who are your customers and how are they using your product. And then we'll look at those customers and we'll say, oh, this is interesting. It's a father-son business. Oh, it's a father-son business that was maybe going to go out of business during the pandemic until they discovered your product or your tool. And we'll dive deeper and pre-interview folks, learn about them, and find out what the stakes are in the story, and then we'll unpack those stakes the way we might in a film, in a feature film, so that it translates to what the brand or the cause is doing, and ultimately finds a richly satisfying narrative 3-act screenwriting 101 story. So that's really our special sauce, is to find and uncover those stories, but they are truly everywhere.
Yeah, and just to add on that, that really becomes like the base of the content pyramid. And then from there, we can make different versions of that story that's still effective in shorter formats and on different platforms.
How are you doing some of this in, let's say, a post-pandemic world? Are all of your clients, like, are you flying on site, flying camera crews on site? Is this, hey, let us interview you on Zoom and turn it into something awesome? How does that kind of thing work?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's all of the above. During the pandemic, we learned a lot of lessons about remote production. And also, I think a lot of the aesthetics has changed, is particularly for advertisers and brand storytellers, where often you'll find that people just intuitively skip past advertising. So as soon as they see something that looks branded or looks highly produced, they'll just swipe right past it. And so we've really tried to explore how to make what we call like user-generated content stories, but still apply all of the 3-act structure and storytelling methodology that we do to things where we do have the chance to be on set and use nicer cameras. So we've been really just adapting. And of course, it helped us through the pandemic tell those stories in a higher volume, since there are some efficiencies when you're able to produce things completely remotely, since instead of flying people or crews all over the world.
Now, you have alluded to the 3-act story structure and screenwriting principles, storytelling multiple times. So is every project that you work on a long form documentary? I mean, obviously on the site, it says you create commercials and you serve business owners and brands. So does that mean I, as a business owner for my marketing company, need an 1.5-hour documentary? Or when you say you create commercials, are you finding a way to pull off that powerful story in 120 seconds?
Yeah, usually the latter. We are, I will say, dipping into doing feature length and longer form storytelling for brands. And right now we're doing our still undisclosed feature length documentary for a brand. So that's an exciting step for us. But the vast majority is short form video work, commercials as short as 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes. And the same stories, the same storytelling techniques apply, the things that we learned in film school, the things that we, learn in creative writing workshops, those apply to brand stories, even in that 2-minute format. Who are your characters? What's the inciting incident? What's the moment? What's the, what causes the crescendo? What's the climax? What's the denouement? That I think applies even in the settings what might be the most, sort of formal or stiff kind of story, like a B2B case study, which we do plenty of, and we try to pull that same emotion and same storytelling arc into.
You've worked with some household name companies. Can you talk a little bit about some examples in terms of what kind of the story was, and then what the results they were when they started using this story that you created in, say, their messaging or their marketing?
Yeah, great question. We do have a handful of case studies, which I'm happy to talk about. Maybe Ryder has some as well that he can share. But I think a good example takes place kind of in the corporate or branded world. We do traditional advertising with Meta and the Facebook family of apps. And as opposed to direct consumer advertising that might say, hey, sign up for Facebook, what we'll do is brand stories of small businesses around the world, especially in developing countries, but also across the United States. So a typical story for us might be finding a woman in a village in India who began selling bridal jewelry or something of other kind of arrangement in a patriarchal or otherwise very difficult business climate. And thanks to her success on Facebook, she's now grown her business and she's now employing all of the women in her village. And Facebook will take, or Meta will take a case study like that and will show it to other small businesses. They'll use it at events, they'll use it in conferences, they'll use it one-on-one in sales tactics. And the thing that is really important to us is that the story is so interesting that often the work gets shared outside of just the salesperson using it. That's always the goal, is does this story have any inherent filmic or narrative heft to it that somebody might want to share it and watch it even if it's brought to you by this brand. And we try to find that fine line. Of course, branded content is not anything new, but I think we really try to bring that cinematic quality to it, where people want to organically share it and engage with the content.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
In today's always on 24/7 digital world, and supposedly our attention spans keep getting shorter and shorter, and now it's what, 7 seconds, 9 seconds, it's shorter than a goldfish. How do you grab people's attention? How do you get it so they stop the scroll and actually engage with the content?
Yeah, sure. That's obviously a really tricky nut to crack that a lot of people are working on around the clock. And so as an emerging technology, I think we'll just comment on what we've seen and what we're trying to do right now. But as I was mentioning earlier, really trying to get audience attention by creating stuff that looks like it was created by real people and not by brands. And so really that just takes the form of filming things on iPhones. And so that maybe doesn't look like the most polished commercial, but it is really high in the authenticity category. So trying to make stuff that looks authentic and telling those authentic stories. And this can be particularly effective for brands that are kind of trapped in that, like, well, we only make glossy stuff category, and instead say, well, look, just pull back the curtain a little bit. Think about the people who actually use your product and the type of people that they relate to, and let's try to make them the storytellers. And then we can stop the scroll because it looks like a real person talking to them, not like a faceless brand.
You've achieved so much success for your clients and for the company. What's your biggest challenge now?
Yeah, there are a multitude of challenges. Obviously, one is the one you're alluding to, which is the constant shift in audience taste, the constant evolution in social media, the shorter and shorter attention spans. Our work spans the feature film 90-minute work down to these 6-second TikToks that we're doing with our brand partners. And we have to keep abreast and be forward looking in what we're making, and not making what brands were making in 2017, because a lot of it doesn't work anymore. And so part of it is that. Another thing is that our whole staff, both internally and our extended network of freelancers and vendors, are all super creative people making their own films. And so a big part of our challenge is kind of harnessing all that talent internally and externally and shaping their craft to the needs of our brand partners. And of course, film is such a blank canvas and subjective palette on which to paint your story. And that's what makes it so powerful. But day in, day out, we're trying to help shape and work with filmmakers on our team and externally to deliver real business objectives and actually drive ROI. Because if our clients aren't making money off the videos that we're producing, whether it be soliciting donations as a nonprofit, selling more products or services, or creating some kind of brand lift, they're not going to keep engaging with us to do it. And so we're always kind of constantly trying to find that perfect harmony between the art and commerce, where yes, this is a piece of art that we're creating for our clients, but it's also a valuable tool for their business.
Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
Well, I just really love just using all the new innovative tools that are coming out. For me, it was a huge jump to go from drawing to photography. And I've just always been on that path of like, what are the next new tools to tell stories? So it was from photo to video. It was from, expensive video cameras to iPhones. And so just seeing that innovation keep evolving and staying current with the emerging technology, I think that's the most exciting thing for me, particularly in how it can be used as a way to enhance our storytelling. So just the technology and the tools and seeing what's emerging now, that I think is what gets me most excited.
What about you, Nicholas?
I would say one, of course, it's being incredibly lucky to work with our team every day. There's so many great storytellers that we have the privilege of working with every day and nurturing and growing in terms of their abilities as filmmakers. But beyond that, one thing that I'm super proud of is just that we've created a niche in what I would call the social impact space. And some of our clients are traditional Fortune 500 clients, like the ones I've mentioned that you might not think of as being champions for equity in the world. And yet a lot of them have initiatives that do that and that we're able to bring to life. And that, of course, extends all the way to actually having the opportunity to work with social movements like Black Lives Matter or environmental organizations like Greenpeace and the Nature Conservancy. I think we've made a brand and a name for ourselves about actually caring about the goals of our clients, in addition to the craft and the quality of the films and the stories we're telling. And so to actually be able to make real impact via the work we're doing with the partners that we really care about and believe in is incredibly rewarding.
That is beautiful. I couldn't have written it any better. For our folks who are watching or listening who want to learn more about what you're doing and how their business or brand might be able to work with you, where is the best place for us to send them?
We're on our website is peoples.tv. That's peoples.tv, like television. And we're obviously on all the social media platforms at People's Television. We've also got a physical footprint in New York and DC, and would love to have folks stop by and visit us now that we're back IRL from the pandemic.
All right. Well, we know your time's incredibly valuable. We greatly appreciate spending it, some of it with us. This has been Seth Greene with Nicholas Bruckman and Ryder Haske from peoples.tv. Nick, Ryder, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Seth.
Thanks, Seth. It was a pleasure. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time. Do you need money to fund your idea, product, or service? Are you ready to take your business to the next level but need capital to get it done? Kevin Harrington has heard more than 50,000 pitches and knows how to help you make the perfect pitch to get the funding for your entrepreneurial dream. He's distilled the process down in his perfect pitch cheat sheet, and it's yours for free. Just text PITCH to him right now at 727-888-2100. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free perfect pitch cheat sheet. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 to start funding your dream today.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.